Hello everyone. Welcome to day 8 of our Teamcenter interview preparation series. Today we are going to clearly understand Teamcenter Data Model Structure, what this hierarchy means, and how it helps when fetching data from database. This is a very important concept. Let's break it down step by step. A data model defines what objects exist, what properties they have, and how they inherit, how they are stored in database. Teamcenter follows an object-oriented structure. That means objects inherit from parent objects. Now let's understand the hierarchy shown in the diagram. At the top, we see POM object. POM stands for Persistent Object Manager. This is the lowest technical layer. It gives UID, database storage capability, basic persistence behavior. You don't directly work with this object, but every object in Teamcenter ultimately inherits from it. Think of it as the ability to exist in database. Above POM object comes POM application object. This connects database layer to application logic. Still, it is not something business users see. It prepares object to behave like application level objects. Now we reach something very important. Workspace object. This is where common properties are defined. Workspace object provides object name, object description, owning user, owning group, and creation date. Now think about this. Why does every item, dataset, or form have name, description, and owner? Because they inherit from workspace object. Now we reach the real working objects. Item revision, dataset, and form. These are business objects. They inherit from workspace object, which means they automatically get UID, object name, owner, creation date without redefining them. Let's say we create an item called engine. Even if you only define item ID and revision ID, internally engine inherits UID from POM object, application behavior from POM application object, name and owner from workspace object. That's how inheritance works. You only see item in user interface, but internally it follows the full hierarchy. Now that we understand the hierarchy, POM object, POM application object, then workspace object, and finally business objects like item revision, and dataset. Let's understand why this structure really matters in projects. This hierarchy is not just theoretical, it is actually reflected in the database. What does that mean? It means when Teamcenter stores data, it does not put everything into a single table. Instead, each level in the hierarchy has its own corresponding table in the database. So the properties defined at the workspace level are stored in one table. The properties defined specifically for item are stored in another table. The properties for item revision are stored in yet another table, and so on. That means properties are distributed based on where they are defined in the inheritance chain. For example, the property object name is defined at the workspace object level, so it is stored in the workspace object table. The property item ID is defined at the item level, so it is stored in the item table. The property revision ID belongs to item revision, so it is stored in the item revision table. So now data is separated logically across tables based on hierarchy. Now imagine you want to fetch an item. Let's say the item ID is ENG001 and you want to see item ID, object name, and owning user. Now think carefully. Item ID belongs to the item level, but object name and owning user belongs to workspace object level, and UID belongs to all the way to POM object level. So if you are fetching this item, the system cannot look in just one table. It must internally combine data from multiple tables. It retrieves item ID from the item table, object name and owning user from the workspace object table, UID from the POM object table. This internal combining happens using joins, and the reason joins are required is because of inheritance. If you understand this, many things become clear. When you create a saved query and search by object name, You know that property comes from workspace object level. When you search by item ID, you know it belongs to the item level. If a property is missing or not searchable, you can check at which hierarchy level it is defined. If performance is slow when fetching many attributes, you can think how many inherited levels are being accessed. This understanding gives you control. Instead of guessing, you understand what is happening internally. So today we clearly understood the foundation of Teamcenter, the data model hierarchy. We saw how POM object flows into POM application object, then into workspace object, and finally into business objects like item, item revision, and dataset. We connected this structure into the database layer and understood why joins happen and how properties are distributed. Now the data model should no longer feel abstract. It should feel structured and logical. This foundation is very important because everything else in Teamcenter is built on top of it. That's the completion of our day 8. Thanks for watching.